I've noticed that there is a kind of a little bit of a fracture that is developing on the MAGA or Make America Great
Yes.
Again right. And you probably are aware of this yourself. There is I don't know if it's fair just to call them, I certainly don't want to call them anti Semitic per se, but they are a faction that essentially is saying, this is not America first. This is, in fact, a betrayal of America first. And
Right.
if Trump goes down this road, he is going to not only divide his coalition, but he's going to have the majority of his voters on the other side, not with
Right.
him. Now, Trump
Right.
was asked about this, and he somewhat irritatedly said, well, I'm the guy who came up with the idea of America First. I get to say kind of what America First means. But nevertheless, and I'm not talking about some people who clearly are bitterly motivated. I'm just talking about if some guy were to say, well, Joel, we've been hearing in the United States the case for why we shouldn't be meddling, for example, in Ukraine. It's far away. It has not a whole lot to do with us. And we wish them well, but really what we want is we just want that all to stop. What is the case that you would make to Americans who have these anxieties, have these doubts, to say to them that, you know what, this is something that is not only good for Israel, but what Israel has done is really good for the United States and perhaps even just good for the world?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dinesh, and it's super timely. I actually just wrote a column on Saturday. Tucker trashes Trump. Is about Tucker Carlson, who, yes, I would put him in a different category. He's not Kanye West. He's not Candace Owens. Okay. I've got serious concerns about how Tucker approaches foreign policy, but he's not an anti-Semite. I can't draw that conclusion based on the data that I see. But here's the question. Tucker Carlson is arguably the most influential person in Trump's orbit that hates the idea that Trump would stand with Israel in an Israeli attack on the Iranian nuclear and ballistic missile systems. And Trump and Tucker has trashed Trump publicly. And yes, I'm a dual U.S. Israeli citizen. So let me take my Israeli hat off for a moment. I've got 2 of my 4 sons have already served in the Israeli Defense Forces, and I've got my youngest is serving in the IDF right now. So I just want to put my cards on the table because Tucker took a shot at Mark Levine the other day, saying, "Mark, you've never served in the military. You're not going to go, and your kids aren't going to serve in the military if we have to go to war with Iran. So what are you talking about?" So I just want to be clear: my boys have served, and we are living in the eye of the storm right here. So we've got skin in the game. But let's take the Israeli hat off. The American hat. What's the American case? The American case is in November of 1979, Iran declared war on the United States of America. And it started a little bit earlier when the Ayatollah Khomeini came back from exile, first in Iraq, then in Paris, came back on February 1st, 1979, and whipped up crowds every Friday saying, "Death to America, death to Israel." So death to Israel is the secondary objective. Death to America is the central mission of the Islamic Republic of Iran. So Tucker doesn't seem to understand that. Now, it's not just rhetoric, okay? They declared war on the United States, and then they took our embassy, the American embassy, hostage, took Americans hostage, American diplomats, for 444 days, okay? Humiliating the United States. And nothing we did worked, and President Carter's effort to send in a military rescue didn't work, and it was a humiliating disaster. If that were the only moment, we'd say, okay, well, no Americans died in the embassy. It wasn't good, but But what happened then? Iran began funding terror organizations to kill Americans. I'm just going to pick a couple because we could go on and on. We could spend the whole next couple of hours. But, most dramatically, perhaps, when Iran funded Hezbollah, their terror arm in Lebanon, to attack the U.S. Marine barracks in Beirut, killing 241 Americans and humiliating President Reagan as Reagan pulled all U.S. forces out of Lebanon. That was a disaster. that was Iran. And if you say, well, you don't know it's really Iran. Yeah, a U.S. federal court did the case and awarded, I think it's north of $100 million to the victims because they proved in court that it was Iran. And so money that had been frozen of Iranian assets in the United States, $100 million plus was given to those American family victims. So that's one example. Another would be the Khobar Towers in Saudi Arabia, where American servicemen and civilians were living and defending the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and Iran sent terrorists to blow them up. 19 Americans died, hundreds more were wounded. So those are just a few examples. We all know, because there's hard intelligence, that Iran was funding and encouraging and arming terror groups inside Iraq to attack Americans, American servicemen in Iraq during that war. So it goes on and on and on, and Iran has never paid a military price ever. Now, the closest it got was when President Trump in the previous term ripped up the Iran nuclear deal, which he said was the worst deal in history, right? Paved the way to a bomb, didn't stop it. And then Trump imposed the maximum pressure campaign of economic sanctions, which did drive Iranian foreign reserves down to only $5 billion. They were nearly bankrupt until Joe Biden came in and stopped enforcing the sanctions. And then they became rich, and then they began funding terror again. In what part of America First is allowing Iran for nearly a half a century to keep killing Americans and funding terrorist organizations that kill Americans and attack America's allies, faithful allies, good allies that are delivering, pulling their weight, paying their fair share, right? How is that not being pro-American and America First to support the end of that regime in Iran, but more immediately neutralizing Iran's capacity to kill Americans and kill our allies? That's the case. Now, Trump, I think, has done it pretty well, which is he took the high road. He's playing the good cop. I'll negotiate. And even now he's saying Iran can still come back to the table. Israel is doing what it has to do. But if you don't want to be completely wiped off the planet as a regime, come back and talk. And that combination, that is America First. And I'm telling you, every Israeli is cheering, every Saudi is cheering, every Emirati, Bahraini, Moroccan, because everybody in this region, and I've met and talked to all of their top leadership, I'll give you an example. Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince and de facto ruler of Saudi Arabia, told me personally in the palace in Riyadh in 2018 that the Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, is the new Hitler. That's how Saudi Arabia sees the regime in Tehran. So this, if you want to be pro-American, if you want to be America First, you cannot let a nuclear wannabe genocidal country keep killing Americans, much less keep killing America's allies with impunity. And if Tucker Carlson doesn't get that, it's time for him to be exposed as not understanding America first. He's putting Iran first. Let's not even get it into putting Qatar or Russia first, but he's definitely putting Iran first right now.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.